When it comes to starting a business, sometimes the hardest part isn't just starting, it's actually after you've started. It's the early stages of starting a business. Sometimes going from startup to scaling can be really tough. When it comes to farming, there's a lot of challenges that come along with that. If you think livestock, if you're raising 25 broilers, that's going to be very different than when you're eventually raising 500 broilers per batch. If you just think about simple infrastructure, that's one of the big things that'll be totally different. You're going to need bigger chicken tractors, more chicken tractors, you're going to need more land, you're going to need a trailer to haul all those chickens to the processor. And then when those chickens are processed, where are you going to store them? That's one of the challenges being faced right now by new farmer Charles Mayfield. Charles is a farmer in Athens, Tennessee. He farms at Mayfield Pastures. And in this video, he's going to talk about some of the challenges that he's faced with scaling. The interesting thing about this is he'll be having this conversation not with me, but with a longtime farmer, Darby Simpson. Darby's a 10-year plus livestock farmer, and he's gonna be helping Charles through some of these issues like how to deal with freezer space, how to deal with water systems, how do you deal with scaling in general. That's what this video is about, scaling up the livestock enterprise. Stay tuned for this one. Here it is, it's Charles Mayfield and Darby Simpson.
So I got one more freezer on order, big 21 cubic foot chest freezer, and then there's a place in California that I went, Masa Natural Meats. That's one of the other places I went, know them very well, and sort of checked them out before I got started. And they're all chest freezers. I mean, I got like 15 of them, and you know, this is adequate for now. But I think I mentioned in my email in October, I am slammed. I'll have turkeys, broilers, and 8 pigs finishing in a matter of 3 weeks. And I know I can't store it all here.
I've got one suggestion on the turkeys. We always time it so that our turkeys get butchered right before Thanksgiving, and the customers pick those up fresh, because that is a massive amount of storage. And we pick those up at 6 a.m. on a Thursday. And by 8 p.m., 7 p.m. that day, they're all gone. If somebody didn't show up to pick up their turkey, they lose their reservation, they lose their deposit. I send out an email, I do a Facebook post, we've got a turkey available, and you know, by the farmer's market on Friday morning, I might have 3 turkeys I've got to take down there, and they're gone, but we don't store them in the freezer, we just keep them on ice.
Keep them fresh. So
I know you've already got your butchering date scheduled for those, but personally I wouldn't try to store the turkeys. You know, a big walk-in freezer, there are pros and cons each way. Yes, that gives you lots of space. I feel like that's important, particularly for us doing farmers markets, where I'm able to take all my small coolers in there, pre-pack them, leave them in there, then I'm just loading them out on Saturday morning into the 2 vehicles. But since farmers markets aren't really a part of your process here, I mean, chest freezers work. The great thing about chest freezers is you can turn them on and off, and you've got tons and tons of redundancy, whereas with a walk-in freezer, if it breaks, you're up a creek. So personally, I mean, if it was me, I'd keep rolling with the chest freezers for the time being. You could also look at renting some locker space somewhere for the short term instead of investing in a walk-in freezer.
Actually, I hadn't thought about renting. That's a great idea. I mean, I know the chest or the walk-in is the long-term deal, the long-term solution, or at least a part of the solution. The other thing right now is I feel like everything needs to be portable, because we're here now, we'll be over there later, you know. I mean, moving a walk-in freezer doesn't happen unless you've got something like you're set up with. It's like a box truck deal, and I can just pick the whole thing up and tow it. Yeah, I think the biggest, well, you know, it's all interconnected. So storage space to manage inventory. Onlining my inventory and onlining my processing versus hand doing it right now with this buyer's club.
To be clear, we don't manage, like, we don't write down. I can't tell you how many whole chickens I have in the freezer right now. I've never
Understood.
never gone through and counted all that.
I don't do that now, but if I take an inventory, you have farmers markets to
Right.
sell. I'm considering the farmers market in Chattanooga at some point, but not now. So it's important for me to be able, because what I'm wanting to bring online next year is like 4 drop points: Chattanooga, Atlanta, buying clubs 4 times a year. And in order to do that, I need to really be able to move an inventory online so that people can go online, buy what they want, and then I get it delivered to
So
them.
kind of the way our website works is we just list all the products we've currently got available. We might have 1 or we might have 100.
Got it.
I've got a really good idea of, if we're talking flank steaks, you only get 2 flank steaks off of a cow, so I've got a really good idea of what's out there and available, and then I just turn those off as things become unavailable.
Yeah.
But it's not sophisticated in that it's not tied into some inventory update where it knows, hey, there's 68 packages of jalapeno cheddar brats in the freezer right now. It
Doesn't do that.
No, I've got 4 boxes. There's 36 packs per box. I've got roughly 140 to 150 packs of those. That's my I know about how many we sell per week, per month, when to get more made, when to get something different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but your scaling too kind of revolved around infrastructure.
Well, I mean, like water.
Water's huge.
Water's everything.
Water is the single biggest moment when you get that done. Almost more so than fence. Because fence, we can use a lot of really simple portable infrastructure.
Yeah.
Water, not so much.
So right now, watering's fine right now. It's all portable. I'm hauling it all. I'm not running enough chickens. So scaling. I think I mentioned in my email, like 1 big batch of broilers versus.
If you're going to keep doing broilers, you need to do 500 or 600 at a time and be done.
So
then that's a big function of how far you're hauling.
It's a huge function of how far I'm hauling, but then, so I agree with you. So then we got to think about storage. So
Right.
what do I need? I need a much bigger brooder.
Yes.
I'd need 75 birds, a tractor. So I'd need 5 more tractors, I think. But once I have them, I have them.
Right.
I'd need a much bigger brooder.
We actually just recorded a podcast about this and kind of that, how many birds am I going to raise in a season? Well, do I want to raise 600 birds? I want to do 200 at a time and do it 3 times, so I don't have to have, I can have 2 or 3 chicken tractors and 20 crates. Or do I want to do 1 big batch and now I got to have 60 crates at $50 a crate, $60 a crate, yeah, $3,000, and I've got to have 6, 7, 8 chicken tractors.
I got to have a trailer to put all those birds on.
Right, but logistically it's one and done. And then, I got to tell you, if I'm you, the distance I'm hauling those broilers, I don't know how long, like broilers might be on the chopping block pretty fast.
Well, the end game is on-farm processing.
That's what you want to do?
That's the end game.
Okay. If you really want to do that.
I want to do that.
Okay. Then by all means, you got to keep raising broilers.
So I got to keep raising broilers.
So I guess then the question becomes, how fast do you think you want to get to on-farm processing? Because if you say, well, by the beginning of 2019, I'd like to be doing on-farm processing, then I'm going to say we don't want to scale up to do 600 birds at one time, because that's going to be like one season, and then we don't really need to do that. With on-farm processing, you're going to want to kind of settle into, okay, this Thursday's processing day, and with my little team here, we can knock out 200 birds or 150 birds. So now we're going to do our batches in increments that we can easily butcher in a day. So like that's the task for the day, and that's it. And that's how I would structure myself, which then gets back to limiting how much freezer space you need, how many crates you need.
There's a lot of interplay there.
Yeah.
The scaling I'm really wanting to look at has to do with the pigs. And I have the opportunity to scale that, triple my production model, surely by default, because my farrower has a couple extra sows now and there'll be more piglets. So I think I'm good on infrastructure, with the exception of the feeder needs to be much bigger. One of the big 40 or 60 bushel feeders. My water's fine, I just have to drag more of it down there. But the market, I mean, that's the, can I market, can I move that many pigs?
It kind of takes some time to build a marketing list. I mean, it'd be tough to go from 20 to 60 pigs in a year. Now I think going from 20 to 30 or even 20 to 40 is probably doable. Particularly if you can start to bring some other buying clubs online, or if maybe you do on-farm retail sales during the agritourism season.
Okay.
So maybe now the customers are coming to us, so we're going to be open. These days and these hours during the peak of the agritourism on farm, with a little, we're not doing any buying club stuff during this time frame. Okay, we'll do it right before and right after.
Yep.
But maybe you'll open up a little on-farm store. I mean, you might sell, a pig or two a week by the cut with the number of people that run through this place.
Oh yeah.
So if you could kind of figure out, okay, well, we want to have the pigs in the freezer, call it 2 weeks before Labor Day weekend, because that's when Michael's agritourism business really spins up. And then from Labor Day through Halloween, we're going to be open on farm these days, these hours. That's going to require some retail help.
Yeah.
Some paid retail help and a little store. But I think these are all ways to scale up without having, you got to kind of spread out your delivery.
Well, yeah, you're not going to move 40 pigs in a weekend.
No. And that's the mistake a lot of people make, is they'll go out and buy 25 pigs all the same size. And I've heard people do this. I got 20 pigs I'm taking to the butcher next week. Now what do I do? And they've done zero marketing. They haven't thought about storage. They haven't thought about anything. And then 6 months later, that guy's out of business. And they may have raised a phenomenal product.
Yeah.
But they were so laser focused on the production side, they never gave the 10,000 foot bird's eye view to marketing an inkling of thought. So, and with your infrastructure too, one thing I'd mention is run some garden hose out there with a T-post and a spigot and a splitter valve, so that you're not hauling water. I mean, that right there will probably save you an hour a day, 2 hours a day in logistics. It's just by going and spending $300 or $400 on some garden hose and some fittings and some T-posts and clamps, maybe a metal pipe to run it across the driveway or whatever, so it's not getting smushed to death when people are driving back there. I would do that if it was me. I'd be doing that first thing tomorrow morning. I'd be spooling garden hose out there, and every 100 feet I'd put in a splitter valve.
So we can just.
So you've got water. No, you're never walking more than 50 feet to get to water.
I've been hesitant to be I would call that kind of a semi-permanent watering situation, because it's sort of a save my money, because I know where the water is going to have to go in. But time is money.
It was apparent based on your email that you're spread pretty thin right now.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to buy you some time mentally to not worry about the buried water system, and save you an hour to 2 hours a day with moving water. And we talked off camera about the quick H-brace kit from Kincove with the T-posts, and we've got 3 $5 T-posts and a $35 H-brace kit, and so for $50 now we've got an H-brace, and we put in some temporary, semi-permanent internal fencing to bust that thing in half in part of a day, and your strip grazing it's not bad now.
Yeah, that's good.
You'll cut that labor in half or 2/3 if you can take the time to go and just put in a little bit of internal fencing over there.
Are you mowing out ahead of your cows ever?
No, I mowed my lower grazing area 2.5 weeks ago for the second time, only because we had so much rain. It got swampy. There were areas we couldn't graze, or we couldn't graze very long because of the pugging, and we had fescue this tall that was brown and carbonous, and I was really worried about pink eye. We had a mild winter. The flies are crazy. It's just a recipe for disaster with pink eye. So twofold, threefold really. Cut down all that crap to avoid pink eye. Hit the reset button on the grass. It's now green and lush.
You guys walk through that grass. My only concern with mowing is sort of having a lane to put fences in. Like, even if it's temporary fence, I just sort of, is that something I shouldn't worry about? Like, as long as the fence is there, the cows aren't going to just run into it and run through it?
Oh, because they can't see it due to the tall grass?
Yeah. It hasn't been an issue yet.
You could probably do with getting a couple more stalkers to throw into your herd.
Okay.
To kind of help keep the grass managed a little bit better. Although you're starting to head into the drier part of the season.
Yeah, I'm a little hesitant to add right now.
You know, but I don't think that 1 or 2 head, you know, if you get in a bind, okay, well you feed hay for a couple of weeks.
Could I fold stalkers in with cow calf and be okay?
I'd isolate them on farm for a couple of days, put them on your basic H, make sure they're worm free, make sure they're healthy and clean, and yeah, you could go ahead and mix them in. It wouldn't hurt if you had a small corral to put everybody in to get them to know one another first, but your cows seem pretty easy going. So long as you get some other really easily handling cows that somebody works with frequently, then. But what I would do is try to get that internal fence in, and then you can start setting up your reel from the internal fence to the external fence, and doing that daily break.
And you'd just split it right down the middle.
I'd split it right down the middle. I'd probably go north to south so that I've got the high ground and the low ground.
Yeah.
Because you might want to manage those. You might get a big deluge of rain. Well, then let's get them out of here. We'll put them up here where the water's running off. We're not worried about pugging as much up here. You can manage those two areas differently.
Yeah.
But because of how your trees are laid out, you can let them walk back if need be to get shade, because they'd be theoretically moving from the south to the north, particularly if they're then in the west portion or up high on the hill where you've got the tree line, you've got afternoon shade there, so you probably never have to do that.
We talked about turkeys earlier, just sort of getting them out to pasture when you said 5 to 6 weeks. I think I've got 2 more weeks.
Max, yeah, not past 6 weeks.
Yeah, I think I've got 2 more weeks in the brooder. Room wise.
Yeah, I mean, I'd plan on getting them out within the next
2 weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'd do what I could to stop hauling water. That's going to free up a lot of time. Yeah. And then, here's something else. So once you've got that in place, you know, something over here breaks, you're busy fixing it, you can ask your wife to run out there on the go-kart and run some water, because you can't get to it right now because the water's only 50 feet away. That's something she can handle. There's no tractor. There's no
flat
big
tire.
Wagon. There's no flat tire on the big wagon. You know, now it's not just you. Now she can pitch in and help you by just going out there and turning a knob and letting something fill up with water. And you're like, okay, that's covered. Now I can focus on this. You know, and that's pretty benign. Even as busy as she is with 2 little ones, she can handle that, I'm sure.
Yeah, at our size and scale right now, the water issue is a little hidden, because I can, like, once every 10 days haul a bunch of water somewhere, and it lasts me for 10 days. You've had a good experience with ground roasted soybean with your pork?
Well, pork and poultry. Yeah, haven't had any problems. Although, I mean, if you've got someplace that's willing to mix it and they've got whole roasted soybeans, they could crack them if you wanted to. Not grind it up into a fine feed.
Well, I'm going to check into. There's a place in Middle Tennessee, and I don't know that either way, I'm going to have to get feed shipped.
Yeah.
So I've had great experience with the folks out of Virginia thus far, and it's a really quality feed.
But long term, you're probably going to, if you could work with somebody that's close enough to do a bulk grain truck delivery into a bin.
And I'd go buy a mixer grinder. Can't you do that and grind your own?
If you want to weigh everything out and store it all, sure. It's not really going to save. It could save you a significant amount. My experience has been it probably won't save you as much as you expect.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm a one-man operation, so there are lots of little things I could do to save $500 a year here or $2,000 a year there, but I guess in some ways I get the question of, well, why don't you have an employee? Well, in a way, by just having my grain mill grind everything for me, deliver it to me, put it in that bulk bin.
You just outsource your employees.
Yes, I just outsource my employees. Yeah. So it's kind of 6 one way, half dozen another. I've got some expenses there, but to delete those expenses, I either have to work a whole lot more or I have to bring in another person, an employee, and I'm not really high on either one of those options.
Yeah.
And so my system works for me. But yeah, I think having a bulk bin instead of 50-pound bags, you would drastically cut your price, most likely. I mean, I've seen people go from 40 cents a pound to 28 cents a pound on feed just by making that move. So like literally cutting 20 to 30% of their cost.
Well, my next step on feed would be to go from 50-pound bags to bulk.
Yes, or at least totes.
Totes is what I meant. Excuse me, not bulk, but
right.
1,000-pound or 2,000-pound totes.
Right.
Which I would do tomorrow with the pigs if I had something to put that feed in, like a big 40 or 60 bushel feeder. I'm just not there yet.
Yeah, I mean your pig setup works right now.
It works great.
So.
And I don't have enough. Now, if I did broilers, I'd order it in a tote, their feed, because
you got to be careful with 150 or 200 birds at a time. If that's the scale. You might not want to do that because you want to use that feed up within 30-ish days.
That's the point I was making. If I scaled up the broilers to a batch of 500, I'm obviously
bulk
ordering bulk.
Yes.
Or totes.
Your broilers right now, the 50-pound bags are probably the way to go.
They work great.
There you have it, Charles Mayfield and Darby Simpson talking scaling. I mean, can you appreciate these concerns? Do you get where Charles is struggling with some of these things? I think these challenges are very common out there. One of the things that they talked about right at the end was mixing feed. Should you mix your own feed or not? And Darby said, hey, look, it's easy for me to just buy my own. When you mix your own, there's a cost associated with that. There's a money savings potentially with doing it, but there's a cost associated with it because you're gonna have to buy that equipment, you're gonna have to maintain that equipment, you're gonna have to have the storage for the raw ingredients, you're gonna have to have the storage for the mixed ingredients, and then you potentially have to throw some labor at this to get this done. If you don't have time to do it, you're gonna be paying for that labor. So just one example of how you need to look at these decisions when it comes to scaling your farm-based business. It's not all just as cut and dry as, oh, I think that would be fun to do, I think it would be cool to do. You have to look beyond that, peel the layers back on the onion and see what are the true costs involved beyond just the money. Something that may look like a monetary savings at the beginning may actually prove out to be expensive in other ways at the end of the day. If you want to follow along with Charles, be sure to check him out on Instagram. There's a link to his Instagram page below. I've also done some previous videos with Charles, which you'll see at the end of this video. And if you want to follow along with what Darby's doing and hear more from Darby, be sure to check out the Grassfed Life podcast that Darby and I do every Monday. We have over 80 episodes now in the archives. If you're interested in getting into livestock farming, I highly suggest you check out the show. It's free, it's available on iTunes or wherever podcasts are found. Just search for Grassfed Life, or I'll make it easy, and I put the link below. Thanks for watching this one. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Until next time, be nice, be thankful, and do the work.